think I have any slides. I think they're all your slides.
That first one that you have, the triple layer cake.
Are we still awake after lunch? Is this going to be an enthusiastic crowd? Oh, okay. Oh. All right. Well, hey, we are on the last day. We have all survived. Well, most of us are sitting down at this point. Very thankful to have a seat and not be on their shoes. Some of us have managed to move to Uggs. That would not be me. Well, hey, welcome. Welcome to our TSIS update. Closing out a most auspicious calendar year 2025. Yay! We've survived. I really want to thank, NTSA, Vice Admiral retired Sean Buck, NTSA's president, Mr. Sean Osman, NDIA Central Florida Executive Vice President, for hosting this absolutely incredibly valuable exchange today. It's a great opportunity, again, government, industry. I look forward to hearing from you, sharing ideas, and really how do we continue to advance all of the work we've done for the last year and all the work that we've got left to do. And frankly, it's like a never-ending thing. So I always say it's kind of like maintenance. We know the Army will break things. So I always know I have a job as a maintenance professional. We know the Army will need to train on things. So we all have a job as in the training and modeling and simulation profession. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. A big thank you to the Orange County Convention Center for accommodating the great events of ITSEC and TSIS. And this, again, is an update from what we presented in June. I'm going to do some opening remarks, and then I'll take a couple of questions because I then have to bail, unfortunately, for rehearsal, and then I will sneak back in the back after rehearsal for closing ceremonies. So I think my remarks are going to center on some of the things that we've all heard, so Honorable Duffy talked. We had Honorable Tata up talking earlier this week. I think we heard a lot from Secretary Hegseth, obviously. And so as we think about the organization formerly known as PEO STRI, what does that really mean for us, this community, and kind of talk through some of those things. The acquisition transformation strategy that Secretary Hegseth rolled out as we think about, the arsenal of freedom, as we think about all of the points that Secretary Duffy talked about, how we're going to get after this transformation. How do we do the transformation internally? Like, how do we internalize the culture shift for the transformation? And really, how do we turn that culture shift into actionable activity that then drives along those metrics that they both talked about, that General Hodney and the Honorable Brett Ingraham, the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition Logistics Technology, is laying on all of us that are going to measure the effectiveness of this transformation. And so, as we think about, we at STRI are going to approach that in a very much phased array approach, right? So between now and springtime, now that everything's been rolled out, we are working as the Capability Program Executive. That is our official title. When we think about what does that really mean, right? So when you go from a PEO to a CPE, what does that really mean? I think it's about not worrying so much about the program piece and being very much focused on the capability piece of that sentence, right? So, I look across the formation here and we talk about, well, what kind of capabilities are you talking about? Well, ranges, for example, might be a program, but the capability is lethality, right? I'm delivering lethality by making sure the soldiers, in the case of the Army, are trained on their primary weapon systems as individuals and as crews, and that's what we use our ranges for when we talk about in the live fire environment, or our cyber ranges, or our EW ranges, or some of our intel training ranges as well, right? So again, it's about the capability. How are we increasing lethality in that space? And while it may be targets, and I'm just picking on the people I see in front of me, while it may be targets, might be a product on there, really what I'm after is the data in that space, right? So maybe I'm putting lead downrange. Maybe at some point I'm doing it with some variation of an electronic bullet. Maybe it's a little bit of both, right? So I think all of those things are part of that capability construct that that's really what they want us to focus on. And so John's got the first chart up, right? And I've been talking to many of you, and I've been trying to say I want to get out of the business of things and get into the business of core services and data. And so as we look at the architecture that the really smart engineers of CPE STRI have kind of laid out for us, right? This is the framework by which we are approaching our capability set. And there are a number of products in there. There are a number of programs in there. Some of them aren't even ours, right? So in the case of the top layer of sensors, I don't want to be in the business of building individual training devices for individual soldier tasks, right? I do today. I do it as a customer support relationship with another PM. But the other PM, the PM that owns that capability, right, they're the ones who are responsible for building the individual and crew trainers that then can hook into this architecture. And whether we have to do it, whether we can do it off of the actual fighting platform, which would be, the first tier objective, or we do it through some virtual trainer capability, which we do in many, many circumstances today. I want to be agnostic to that, and I want to be able to get the right data that I need from either device or the live environment, pipe it across that transport layer, no matter where I am, because it's about training soldiers and leaders and crews and commanders wherever they are at the point of need in many respects. And so how do I do that? I get after that through those core services at the bottom of the chart. So I'm really wanting to focus on what do we have, what do we need for the right core services that then enable us to actually execute this globally, and where's the friction points? In many cases, the friction points are in the API, they're in the transport layer, they're in the lack of a transport layer, and so, those are the things that we're looking at over the next, 3, 5, 7 years. How do we keep going down that path? So no matter what the transport layer looks like, and no matter what the sensor layer looks like, we continue to provide those core services that then deliver lethality and deterrence. We've already opened the door to the new way of doing business. I don't know if any of you have, I say that with a bit of tongue-in-cheek, right? Because I'm like, we've been leaning in on commercial solutions openings, and we've been leaning in on using the OTAs. Not that we're abandoning FAR-based contracts, because FAR-based contracts offer protections neither of those two other things really do, and have the ability, if we tailor them right, to get after the things that we both need, both the industry and the government. And so I just want to say is that we've been leaning in that space. So when people keep talking about, are you going to try some new contracting strategy? I'm like, sure. Which new one haven't we tried in the last 12 18 months. And I look at I got my contracting community folks right over there on my left. They're like my block. They're my flank. They've got my flank going, and every one of them's over there going, yep, she keeps asking us to do this and this and this, and we've done this and this and this. And I expect us to continue to execute on that. I think the value of the CPE being tucked up under the PAE for command and control and counter command and control is that if you, again, I go back to this enterprise for multi-domain operations training, doesn't look a lot any different than what C3N is doing or IWS is doing, right? So it's about how do we do the same things and deliver the same capabilities. So having said that, when I talk about the network or the transportation layer, the transport layer, and the infrastructure for that, well, now my CPE battle buddy, General Taylor, he owns a good-sized chunk of that space. And my other major customer in that space on multi-domain operations, General Cheney, he owns a bunch of that space. And so under the PAE construct, not only do I have Mr. Joe Welch as the PAE, but we have the our Cyber Center of Excellence / Mission Command Center of Excellence folks leading in our requirements section. Like, they're the requirements folks. And the Army Cyber Center director is now our deputy PAE. And so having that relationship, I think is going to be extremely valuable in wrangling all of the other requirements owners that the training community finds themselves having to wrangle. Because we certainly are still going to be required to support fires, and we're still going to be required to support, air maneuver and all the ground maneuver guys as they figure out how they're going to get their hands around their own capability sets and their own portfolios. So I think that there's an absolute, there will be a great benefit to us in being able to move faster because we will get to decision makers quicker. And when people will say, well, we're going to power down decision making, some of it won't change. Like, we've powered down a lot of stuff. What they're really talking about is powering down from the secretary and chief and assistant secretary or undersecretary and vice level, powering that down to T2COM Commander General Hodney and Honorable Ingraham, the ASALT, right? So, how many times does the time delay it takes to get all the way up to the Army senior leader level to get a decision and then come back down? The beauty of this new construct against those 5 warfighting functions is all of us will be able to bring that down at least to the T2COM and ASALT level, and then only those big friction points have to travel back up to Army senior leaders for decision. In most cases, we'll be able to make those trades and those decisions down below that level. And that's how we're going to measure speed, right? We're measuring speed in those ways because that friction is what slows down our ability to deliver and make decisions on what products we deliver out the door or what core services we're able to deliver out the door. What's the next chart? Yeah. So, this is just another way of looking at the architecture in terms of it's all interconnected, right? So as I think of the IS, the CTCIS, I really think of it as the training, my training verse, right? So to steal Meta's, thunder with its metaverse, this is our training verse. And in this ecosystem, all of the parts and pieces of STRI come together and have to use parts and pieces of every other PM's products because they're operating in this space to get after delivering quality training and training data, more importantly, at our national training centers, at our home stations, at our mission training complexes, and really at the soldier's home while he's sitting at home, prepping for a test that he's got to take the next day on, I'll bring back my rope you discussion, right, from day one, right, is that's really what we want to be able to do, is to build that training foundation all the way up. And again, this is our OV1, if you would, of the entire ecosystem. So again, we'll be prioritizing over the next, as we go into the 27 POM build, we'll continue to prioritize those things we talked about in June. We'll continue to look at the commercial market space. I saw a lot of great products and services out on the floor. Gave me a lot of pause and a lot of opportunity to think about how might we employ that as an app inside the ecosystem? How might we employ that particular sensor or platform in the ecosystem? Will that get me a product or service faster? I've pressed with the PMs to think about decision space in terms of what you and I do every day in making decisions on, should I upgrade my old iPhone to the new 17? Is it all that in a bag of chips? Or can I live with my current 14 version? And how do I go about doing that, right? So what are the visual tools, as we look at on the, far right being, or excuse me, the far left of the chart, not on this chart, mind you, but in my mind, right, I see this matrix that enables me to communicate to the requirement community and the financing community, hey, I can get you these capabilities today for this price, delivered at this time, or if you want this other extra widget, it might take me 6 months, 12 months, 10 months. For each one of those features that we want to build into the product, it's going to cost some money, maybe. You might actually, if I look at my industry partners, you might actually just already build it in as a feature that I didn't even know about, but it's like, a value engineering thing because I'm going after commercial stuff and oh, this feature will be very helpful for these additional use cases in the future. You've already built it in there, and I can go, oh, I can check that off, right? And my cost hasn't gone up, and my time hasn't gone up. The more my time goes up, and the more my cost goes up, and I look at that hockey stick curve of, I want the Super E bullet or the, I want the holodeck on the Starship Enterprise, or do I want the new holodeck on the Starship Discovery? Your choice. That kind of is how do we get there. So with that, I'm very excited about the culture shift. We've already gone through our initial phase of it. We're going to continue to get a little lighter and a little leaner. The Army's going to continue to pathfind in the CPE, PAE space. And where we see friction points, where you see friction points, please do not hesitate to bring them up. Most of you don't, but I will reiterate again, don't hesitate to let us know where you see those friction points, because friction just slows us down, and we've got to figure out how to get through those blockers. So we're going to continue to simulate the war, we're going to continue to replicate the threats, and we're going to absolutely ensure that the Army can win in all domains. I'm going to take a few questions. Like I said, I'm going to have to pop for a few minutes to rehearse tonight's closing ceremony. So if anybody has a question right now, just for me, that you don't think one of these absolutely the real people with the real answers has, let me know. Anyone? All right. I'm going to take that as a no. So I'll try to get back at the end, but you have all of the right folks here to answer most of your questions on exactly where each one of them is going and what money they have available. Thanks.
We're going to
stand up. I thought we were going to sit here.
Okay, I'd check. It's as much of a whirlwind as it is. I'd check whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, or something in between. So, hi, I'm John Gillette. I'm the PM for SE. This is going up, well, maybe my last TSIS here at ITSEC, coming up on 3 years. Maybe there for the TSIS in June. We'll see how that goes, see if I get fired before then, but I don't think so. I think there's enough things going on where we're going to continue to have success with what we do. So got a couple things for you. As usual, here's our mission. Our mission remains the same. Really, we're enabling the warfighter dominance and for the multi-domain environment, and we're doing that through a number of key products that we'll be talking about here in a few minutes. Our organization. So still have me as the project manager. Many of you know out here that Scott Pulford has moved on after a very long, distinguished, and and brilliant career. So we'll have a moment of silence for Scott. Okay, and now moving on. So we still have our 4 product offices / product leads. Synthetic Warrior Systems under Lieutenant Colonel Mindy Brown. She's saw her here in the room. Common Synthetic Environment under Lieutenant Colonel James. It's actually Parker Staggs. Next Gen Constructive, Brent Bell, a man that is kind of flies under the radar, rarely gets to see senior leaders, and has a very low stress job. We're trying to ramp his stress up. And then Constructive Simulation Support under Mr. Todd Kosis. As you see, I've got Mr. Tom Limbaugh. He's the acting deputy project manager. He is our business manager, so I kind of tried to get the stress up on him, have him do both, and he filled in during our shutdown last month. He's going to actually go back to being the business manager, and Mr. Todd Kosis is going to step up for a while as the acting there for the deputy. So if you give a call and want to make it have a talk with us, you may get him on the line. So these are the current opportunities that we have. I've got 4, and I'm going to jump a slide in here after this to kind of talk about my frontline trace. Last TSIS, we had a number of things that are some success with having a kind of a frontline trace and then a back end of the things we're working on. So we've got this. We're going to talk to each one of these in detail, but really what I want to talk about is I made sure like I had at least somebody up to get the picture on that last one before as I was switching it. The things that we're working on. So what you heard General Beeler talk about was this new directives we have on acquisition, and we have fallen on that. In some cases, we were doing these before those actual directives came out. First of all, accelerating commercial preference to COTS. What you hear the Secretary of War say is, hey, let's deliver 85% and then continue to iterate on that. We are doing that right now. We have been doing that on TSS TMT. We are absolutely doing that on Next Gen Constructive. But also, as you get out into synthetic warrior systems with our virtuals, there is some that we're doing on those, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes. Go direct to the supplier, the ability to actually go down and say, hey, I want you to come in, I want you to do this. So working out the procedures on how we do that, but a little bit more opportunity to do that. In some cases, we can do that with what we have currently with our OTA, with Next Generation Constructive, where we have the 4 or 5 that we have on contract now, but then we also have the folks that are in the OTA, which are in the basket, that we can pull in at any time and say, hey, I want you to come in and do this for us. So and you'll be seeing that over the next months as we get to our first MVP and Next Gen Constructive and then beyond. Really, as we're moving forward, you'll see a lot of us, we've got our heads down. We've got a relatively small team on Next Gen Constructive, but within the Next Gen Constructive team, our engineering team and our other teams, we're really focused on delivering that constructive simulation for Warfighter 27-1. And when is 27-1? How many months? 11. okay? So basically deliver the world in 11 months. And it's happening. The team is doing a great job. And not only deliver the world in 11 months like we used to with, hey, I'm taking some servers, I'm taking laptops. No, we're doing this in the cloud. We're doing this with a brand new, all brand new Mission Command systems. So we are a partner with them. And to prove that we're doing that, Brent Bell and his team have a team out at Fort Carson, Colorado right now, getting ready to go through the Ivy Focus to have that first connection during an exercise. So that is happening right now as we speak. We're continuing the synthetic training environment. I wanted to make sure I added this one up here because right after TSIS last year, actually right after the OTA came out, I got a number of emails and we got a question at the last TSIS saying, so now that STI is dead, what are you going to do? And the answer is no, STI is not dead. TSS, TMT, and the foundation of the STI, TSS, and the TMT, and the overall STI environment is still very much alive. We're still connecting. We're connecting with the CTCIS with Ms. Bledsoe's team. We're connecting with the virtuals. We're connecting with the other live training systems out there and continuing to move that out. So STI is very much alive with RVCT. We're getting ready. We were supposed to have an accreditation this month that has gotten moved another month, and that was partly due to the fact that the application of troops to that was not approved at that time due to the unknowns of when we would be opening back up again. However, we'll be having that sometime in second quarter. And then again, going out to CTCIS and using that, eventually getting a tight connection between NGC that we have now and that STI software. And last but not least, sunsetting the capabilities, which is one of the precepts of what our acquisition is. Getting those systems that have been out there serving us well, continuing to serve us well in the case of Joint Land Forces, constructive capability, and CCTT and AVCAT, and moving them on so we can focus on the new systems and then bring on even newer systems in the future like embedded training. So our opportunities. First one being One World Terrain, very much the same as the last part we were in. The RFI has already gone out, looking at awarding sometime first quarter of 26. Not much time left in that, but should be out there fairly soon to continue to provide that training capability. And eventually, that One World Terrain is going to split out into operational and training. Operational will be within our PAE with us. It will be with IEWS, so you'll have both the One World Terrain going to the next generation constructive and the next generation C2, all the same. So the soldiers going from their Mission Command systems to the simulation are going to see the same thing. Next up, the TSS TMT. This one caused a little turmoil last time, but we initially saw the offerings where people were interested in during that OTA that came out second quarter 25. What we're going to do is we're going to release an RFI. Okay, it's been about a year. There's been a number of things happen. You folks out here have come up with some amazing things. I walked the floor the past couple days and have seen some things that are just leap forward and are right in the area without us even asking you for them. And so we're going to release an RFI to see who is interested in that for the TSS TMT. Looking at having RDT, so some research development and OMO on that with an estimation of $35 million. Looking at an award sometime in fourth quarter of 26 on that. Soldier Virtual Trainer. This one's a little bit more, not necessarily as set in stone, because we're now trying to determine what the full path forward is on this. Right now, we're looking at an RFS in second quarter 26. We're looking at a bridging strategy for this one. One, low amount of money for this, coming from the budget. But we still have a need for systems, both the weapons skill developer and the joint fires trainer. And so we're going to have an RFS out, and then look for a contract award in third quarter 26 to be able to have that. Now, that said, we have the PAE. What does the PAE have in it? It's got the capability manager, it's got the requirements manager, and so we're going to be working with them to determine, are we going to go with everything as is, or have some things changed, and work with that and the COE community to determine, do we launch those separately? Do we launch them together? Do we actually have in the bridging strategy something where we have a catalog and a contract, and then allow initially allow the units to purchase to replace that EST2 capability. And last one, games for training. This one's really interesting. How many of you thought that GFT was going to die in 28? Okay, yeah, some of us did, and it was because they basically, when I first came on board, we had a word that they were going to defund it in 28. Then we started seeing some amazing things with it. We started seeing that new capabilities were coming out, and we were getting a demand signal from the force saying, hey, I need to have a drone trainer. I need to have a trainer for the Booker when the Booker was still in the program. I need to have this. I need to have that. And the fact that you could build something very quickly off of games for training started to pump that up in importance. And as a result, we worked with Bohemia, and now are looking towards we won VBS 4 for games for training initially, and then we're working some other exciting opportunities with them. However, looking at this RFP out, looking at actually in first quarter 26, it's filled in. It actually shouldn't be filled in because it's going first. Well, actually, it has been sent out already. But then the third quarter 26, an award for games for training for that next step that we have. But again, looking at games for training now coming in in the STE environment, and allowing soldiers around the globe to, one, be able to access it, but then two, be able to help us generate new capabilities very rapidly. We'll save the last slide, and this is the one that says, hey, what am I scratching my head on, and what are we doing? First of all, the top one I'm not going to belabor. You can see that. You can get that on the slides, is aligning with the priorities, those being the priorities that came from the Secretary of War. But the one at the bottom is really the one that I want to send to industry here, and that is, where are those enablers that we want to rapidly help us rapidly deliver? First of all, incorporate capabilities within the Army ecosystem, those being Next Gen C2, Vantage, CIO Cloud, and Unified Network. Second, data centricity. Help us with data. How do we access data? How do we access live data? Because the request out there is not, hey, I want to have my data coming in from the simulation, from the constructive simulation. I want to be able to go out there and add to that with going out and getting live air tracks, live sea tracks, live ground tracks, and other elements out there, live intel even, to be able to augment that, and then stress those commanders out, both from core all the way down to to company level, with that information overload, and have them train on how to sort that. Artificial intelligence and data-centric platforms to enable the user to adapt capabilities, and that doesn't mean hey, we're just going to put AI in there just to put AI in there. Do it smartly so that it's assisting. It's a tool to assist, but not blindly rely on it. Ensure that we do have a human loop, because we want that error. We don't want to basically say everybody in the in that warfighter, every command is going to go to AI and it is going to be handled perfectly. We want to have that commander train on, hey, I told you to go out 2 kilometers and go right, and the private or the specialist who is on the radio putting that in goes, hey, I'm going to go right 3 kilometers and then stop. We want to make sure that that's in there and not perfect, so it's not just a blind application of AI. And then last, embedded training. For those of you that have been out there at AUSA and some of the other locations, there's a couple demonstrations on embedded training in vehicles. And so how is that going to come in? And we'll be working with both the requirements community and the capabilities community to determine what that is. And in some cases, maybe even the PAA for maneuver ground and possibly maneuver air, but definitely maneuver ground on who's responsible and then how do we get that in. We already have one commercial off-the-shelf possible. With some development, we can work with that and then move forward on that. And with that, that is my get off the stage slide. Happy to answer any questions on what I've said afterwards. And I'd like to introduce Ms. Liz Bledsoe, who will take the mic for PM Trade. The green button.
The green button, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon. Liz Bledsoe, the project manager for training devices, and PM Trade, as some of you know, is the Army's oldest PM. I just want to be clear when I say that I'm talking about the organization. I am personally not the Army's oldest PM, that I'm aware of. Training devices provides the training capability for warfighters from schoolhouse all the way through combat training centers. The preponderance of what we do is providing capabilities for force-on-force training. So from the spectrum from individual to collective, we're more on the collective slide, although you'll find that we do a little bit of everything depending on what it is. We take our motto, "We build warfighters," very seriously and really consider that is what our product ultimately is the warfighters. The organization consists of 4 product offices, virtual training systems, which provides individual and crew training, tactical training systems, supports over 700 ranges around the world with instrumentation and targeting. Live training systems provide training capabilities that add to force-on-force realism with instrumentation and sensors. Combat training information system provides capabilities that actually help collect and consolidate data to provide realistic AAR comments and allow the commanders to understand how well trained their units are and their level of readiness and lethality. We have 3 opportunities, most out of 3 out of the 4 product manager offices. Starting with TTS, this is a multiple award contract and there's some competitive delivery orders coming up in FY26. To support home station ranges with targets and ancillary capabilities. This is also TTS is a newly awarded multiple award contract, and there's going to be some competitive delivery orders supporting the Future Army System of Integrated Targets FACET and the Basic Army Target Lifters in FY26. There's going to be a couple of task orders with Battle. Starting with looking at TDPs, the production of the battle system, and then battlefield effects and simulators. Moving on to live training systems, they have OTA with T-Rex, where they're going to look at tactical engagement systems and simulated effects and tracking to support the Inc. 2, and that CD for LTS was just recently approved by the AROC. And the delivery orders actually provide for prototype capabilities. And then lastly, for virtual training systems is the award of the Family of Maintenance Trainers contract, which we think will happen 3rd quarter FY26. It's a multiple award contract that will have competitive delivery orders as well. From the last program office for CITIS, they do a lot of continuous tech refresh type efforts. They use a multiple of enterprise contracts to include DLA, GSA, and existing contracts that we already have with ACC. They're in the very early concept and planning stages of a competitive multi-year contract for tech refreshes for all of the CTCs. I'm happy to take any questions after we get all through this. I also have a couple of the product managers in the audience, should you guys have any specific questions about them as well. Thank you very much. I'm followed by Colonel Coleman from C2T.
How do I work this clicker? right. Good afternoon, everyone. It'll be over soon. We're almost done. I know our attention span can be short, right? And if you hadn't noticed, we've all been coming up to the podium because we have notes and we want to make sure that we can, read our notes appropriately. So thanks for bearing with us. Am I controlling the charts? I might need can anyone from industry give me a new equipment training on this? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so this is our mission, right? And so basically our mission is to optimize readiness and make sure that our warfighters have the right training capabilities and test assets to be able to compete in a multi-domain operating environment. All right, so nothing really has changed for our organization, with the exception of we did our director for Instrumentation Management Office, Mr. Kyle Platt, recently resigned, so Ms. Michelle Gentili is serving as the acting director for IMO. So that's the primary change in our organizational structure. And then also just a note, as we, the General Beeler just talked about our new construct and how we're aligning to go from program-centric to capability-centric. So those are some of the things that we're going to take a look at going forward into the next year to ensure that we're being capability focused with how we're aligned as a project manager. So this is subject to change. All right, so I really want to talk about a few of my focus areas, or should I say our PMCT2 focus areas as we go into the next year. And then I'll start by, just talking about providing force multiplying training capabilities. And AI is like the buzzword, right? AI integration. How do we infuse AI into our training capabilities? How do we infuse AI into our test investments? And so that continues to be a primary focus of ours as we continue to figure out, like, how do we bring in capability in ensuring that it's there, that we can reduce the workload on our soldiers, and we can reduce, maximize effectiveness and efficiencies. So AI will be a critical piece at what we look at as we look at delivering capability on the training and the test side. Then also, commercial COTS, non-developmental items, that has been a big initiative, Army Transformation Initiative, right? Like, how do we get capability to our warfighters sooner? How do we make sure that they have capability at the speed of relevance and the speed of need? And so leveraging commercial technology, so industry, we're looking for you to provide us, those commercial technologies that we can, with minimum integration and minimal requirements to integrate and deliver that capability to our training and our test community. Also, providing that realistic live virtual training capabilities to enhance data centricity to maximize and drive decision making. So, like, we keep asking for data, we're collecting data, so what are we gonna do with that data? And so how do we create a training environment that allows us to ensure that our decision makers can make the right decisions in a multi-domain operating environment? So that continues to be a focus. Also, within our portfolio, we do have our forces training systems, and within that portfolio, we provide OPFOR, opposing force capability. And so ensuring that our training centers, our combat training centers are equipped with OPFOR capability that replicates a realistic environment that our soldiers are gonna have to go out and fight in. So that continues to be a priority. And then lastly, right, all of these things get after enabling our ability to get after the Army's acquisition reform, and to ensure that, we're not program of record, product centric, but we're capability focused and capability centric. Okay, so this hasn't changed much from our last our PULT back in June. So 3 efforts within CT2 that we're currently working on. while the efforts haven't changed, we've actually made a little bit of headway. So I'll start with our product office for cyber resiliency and training with our Cyber Innovation Challenge, Kick 5. So thank you for all our vendors who came out to Augusta, Georgia, I think back last month, right before the Thanksgiving holiday. Well, maybe I should back up. Thank you all for who submitted proposals, proposed solutions for the capability, for the KIC capability, getting after infusing AI-enabled help desk for our cyber training platform. So back in Augusta, we invited 8 partners, industry partners, to come out and demonstrate their AI-enabled help desk. And so from there, we have down selected to 3. And so I believe those have already, 3 have been notified in terms of their request to compete for an award. And that award is looking at second quarter of 26. So in a few weeks, we're going to be in second quarter of 26. I'm not sure if that's on the early end or the later end, but in second quarter of 26 weeks, we plan to award for that solution. And then also there's another, so we released two RFSs, and so the second one, we're actually undergoing and reviewing those proposals that you submitted, and we expect to do an award in third quarter of 26. All right, the next effort is the Threat Systems Operations Maintenance and Integration Support Contract. So this is a recompete contract, and so we're still on track. This contract is managed out of ACC Redstone, and so still on target, and we expect to release an RFP third quarter of 26 with the fourth quarter award. And then lastly, we have the test enterprise network modernization effort. I think I've met with quite a few of our partners over the last several months, and so thank you for your interest in this effort. We appreciate it. We've been in the market research phase for a very long time, learning and understanding and help shape and inform ITSEC's requirement. And so we're shaping up to eventually, hopefully, be able to host an industry day here within the next quarter or so. I'm looking at the team to make sure that I'm not saying anything that's not right. So, so we're looking at an industry day here within the next second to third quarter. That contract right now, we're looking to go through GSA for that respective contract. And that's to look at modernizing all of our test centers across the ITSEC community, right? So we have five test centers and 6 operational test centers spread across the ITSEC community. And so that's going to be a major overhaul in terms of what we're doing for the ITSEC community, from modernizing their network to modernizing the fiber, and then also installing future wireless networks. So, I mean, if you just think about some of the challenges that we have in some of our more remote locations out in Wismar and Fort Huachuca and those kind of areas, the future, the wireless network is definitely going to be a major overhaul for those locations. So that's all I have. I'm happy to take any of your questions, and then also I have time after this event, and so I'll hang around for a while to engage with anyone that wants to chat with me. Thank you.
Which button? Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian Kemper. I'm the Chief Engineer for our Enterprise Transformation and Integration Organization. There we go. So our mission continues to be a key enabler to meeting the objectives that General Bueller spoke about and discussed in those first 3 slides, and that you've heard throughout the PM's briefings. We've got a small team, and but we've made a lot of great progress in advancing both STRI and the Army's modernization objectives this year. I want to point out real quickly, back in the back corner, we have Lieutenant Colonel Brian Varnes. He's here. Most of that innovation is coming out of the Unite organization. He's not only the product lead for Unite, but he is also our modeling and SIMS, our SIMC officer for PEO STRI. So it's a good face for you to get to know as we're moving forward. So I'm not really showing actual acquisition opportunities here, as we're really an enabler to the PMs, help the PMs meet their modernization, their transformation, missions. These are important because for you to understand the concepts that are going to be weaved into the fabric of everything we do moving forward, and not only at the CPE but at the PAE level. These concepts, such as a digital engineering environment that support that co-development concept, also provides that synergy with not only across the CPE but our PAE fellow PAE organizations. The modern cloud hosting and integration framework, the idea that we have scalable cloud platforms that we can customize for cloud native deployments, the idea that we can enable interoperability between various cross-domain architectures, and then all of that to support this idea of continuous integration, continuous delivery. That's the business model that we're moving to. That's where we should be, and the ability to continuously deploy to the Army's Sea Army environment. Data centricity, you've heard the PMs talk about how critical that is. This year we've had a lot of successes with taking that key data pillar data, Chief of Staff of the Army's priorities, to take the data from the CTC rotations, put it up into our data lakehouse that's in the Sea Army cloud, and utilize that data for advanced analytics and leverage AI to do things with that data that we've been letting that data fall on the floor for years, right? So we're making the most out of that, and this is just the tip of the iceberg for the potential and the capabilities. But that data centricity aspect and getting that data there and being able to work with it is a key component. So we were able to enable that this year for both 2510 and 2511 rotations and 2601. And so we're going to springboard off of that into FY26. And then finally, this whole concept of a training enclave and a unified network migration strategy. Interconnectivity between cloud environments, enabling site-to-site connectivity integration. We have been working with Netcom on concepts that are fundamentally changing some of the way that they're going to do business and help us enable connectivity to the DODIN, which is now the DOIN, I guess we'll call it, a Department of War Information Network. But the idea is a robust digital enterprise engineering environment is going to be essential both to the CPE and the PAE's modernization strategies, and it's going to help to eliminate that friction that General Bueller talked about in her slides. Next, I just want to quickly talk just a little bit about our TREX. So within ETI, our team helps manage this effort. This is a purpose-ready consortium and a purpose-built consortium. And if you're not familiar with it, you need to be. There's already, there's like 485 members here, and there's a mix of pipeline projects and projects that are active and so forth. So just throwing a couple of them up here. Probably the one that's of most interest is the EWGIR, which I think will be probably released. The RFS will probably be released very soon, next week probably. But really the point would be, there's a website there. Go to that website. Make sure you understand if you're not a member what the status is, what's going on, what are active, what are pipeline projects, so that you can get engaged with that. And with that, we'll, again, like the others, we'll be around for questions after. Thank you.
Go. Need a statement of charges on that.
All right.
One left.
So,
Right there. Green
this?
button.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Willoughby, PL TSO, TAD Support Operations. Been in this position about 2 years. I'm going to talk a little bit about what remains the same, some things that are changing, that have changed in the last 6 months or so, and some changes that are coming in the future, as well as some opportunities. So next slide. The green button. There we go. All right, our mission and vision statement has not changed, remains the same. I do want to emphasize that we're mission funded for our core mission, which is TADS maintenance, the Army's TAD maintenance program. We're also customer funded for a number of activities, included integrated training, system sustainment, and we're both customer funded and mission funded for some training services. The two opportunities that I'll talk about today, one falls under training services and the other falls into TADS maintenance. The other green button. All right, here's my organizational chart. So in the last 6 months, our focus in TSO in the last 6 months has been the transition from ATMP to Warfighter TRS. That's where we execute the majority of our TADS maintenance work. Transition's going well, and the WTRS contract is up and operating. The other big change within the organization in the last 6 months has been personnel, and I'd like to talk about the org chart and some of the changes that have occurred. You may remember the last time I presented this org chart, PDM MedSim, Product Manager MedSim, was part of TSO. MedSim's mission was to field the medical simulation training centers. They have completed all the fielding. They've fulfilled their BOI, met all the KPPs, and the program has transitioned into full sustainment. The product office was disestablished, so that's why they're no longer on the org chart. There is a new program called Mystic Next Generation that's in the planning phase. It won't be briefed here today by any of the PMs because it's not further enough along nor funded to present. All right, in the next 6 months, the Army is making a number of changes, some force structure changes, and we are going to be reacting to those force structure changes by physically moving as well as removing from the inventory certain TADs, in particular aviation. I mean, I think everybody's heard about the aviation units that are being deactivated, so we're going to be reducing the number of aviation simulators that are required in the Army, as well as physically moving them around. And to a lesser degree, the same is occurring with ground units, making some changes to some of our ranges. All right, for the org chart, let me run through some of the names. So in the room, bottom left, Zach Lindsay is our director for WTRS. Zach, raise your hand. All right, next to him, Steve Bushway. Steve is not here today, but his responsibilities has changed because we've combined a couple of the PDLs, and Steve's taken on new missions of live training in addition to the synthetic stuff that he's historically done. In the middle is Marco Nikitek. Marco, raise your hand. Marco moved over from PM Trade recently, and he's leading a new organization that we created with a new name, Combined Joint Training Readiness Support. Kind of a complicated name, and that's because the products that he's responsible for are quite diverse. ranging from JPMRC maintenance as well as the Mystics, aviation transportation, ground maintenance drivers, trainers, and artillery and chemical. Somewhat by happenstance, he's responsible for the 2 opportunities that I'll discuss later in the brief. Next is combat training centers and ranges support. That's Scott Turner. Scott, raise your hand. Scott's acting in this position. And then last, global operations. This is the effort that oversees our liaison representatives that are spread around the world representing both TSO and PO STRI. Chris Dunlap is acting in that position, and he's led by my deputy, Justin Fortune. Justin, raise your hand. All right. That is TSO. All right, next slide. Here are the 2 opportunities I'll talk about. Same 2, I think I talked about it last Paul, but we have a little additional detail I'd like to go into. So MEOS, this is the Mystic Instructor Operator Support Services. There's 25 Mystics around the world. Most of them are CONUS, but we have Mystics in Germany, Korea, Hawaii, and Alaska. Most of these are at Army installations, but there are a few at Reserve and Guard locations. And some of these locations have collecting bargaining agreements, which also always make things interesting. You'll see under the acquisition strategy, we're contemplating a small business or 8A set aside. The acquisition strategy is not complete. Under the current contract list, you can see the period performance. The current contract ends in July, so the milestones that we have down on the chart show our plan to get to an award prior to the end of the current contract. I will say on this effort, the furlough did impact us. We had intended to have an industry day this fall. Based on the time we missed as well as the coordination, we're pushing an industry day till January 13th and 14th up at Fort Stewart. And I will say that today a draft PWS was released, so we're definitely making progress here on the Mystic contract. All right, next opportunity is the artillery and chemical training contract. This is essentially a subset of our TADS maintenance, Army TADS maintenance program. We're mission funded for this. It's currently a small business. We're also contemplating this remaining as a small business set-aside competitive effort. You'll see 2 different dollar amounts on the slide. That was a typo. The dollar amount under funding is what we're projecting. And then you can see the milestones there. Once again, this is under Marco's purview, and he and I will both be around afterwards if anybody would like to discuss, but I look forward to your questions. Thank you much.
Huh? I could have stayed. That's probably what I should have done, right? Matter of fact, I will, because I'm an old man and I can't see that far. Hey, I think first of all, they had us all move up here and talk because most of them were on like a 45 or a 60-day paid vacation while some of us were still working. So they meant, I said most of them, Natasha. I didn't say all. And of course, the other side of it was I was going to say we're failing acquisition transformation miserably right off the bat. I mean, we got 4 engineers up here on the stage, and what did we decide to do? Instead of sitting there with the microphones and read, we come over here to talk. So we'll just leave it at that, overthinking it. Secretary of the Board's PT program? I gave that up, as you can tell.
Well, we can't all freestyle.
That's right. Yeah, there you go. I can't tell fat jokes. Somebody told me I couldn't do that, and somebody sent me the note about not talking about naked, so I'll leave that alone as well. All right, next slide. So Dale Whitaker, project lead for international programs. You're gonna make me move over here? That's me?
No.
You gonna take care of me, John?
As the oldest PM on this stage, I'm gonna flip sides for you.
All right, thanks, John. He's got me by about a year,
I got him my ear.
age-wise, definitely. All right, so PLIPO, International Programs Office, our mission hasn't changed. You've seen that slide before. I will tell you that part of the transformation, part of the things that are going on, you're hearing all kinds of good, bad, and indifferent rumors. There is an international cooperation office that is stood up inside the PAE. That office will help coordinate across the PAE, help respond to the international partners, et cetera. My office will be part of, or I will be part of that international cooperation office at least, but as far as the CPE, the execution programs, I don't expect, at least in short run, any significant changes there. I think it's a good thing to talk about the cooperation pieces. Y'all have heard me talk before to industry, and I'll stomp my foot. Critical program information, program protection plans. If you can't deliver to the international partners at speed, we can't be interoperable. We can't do the things we need to do, so we need your help there. Spend some IRAD dollars, solve some of those problems for us, all right? Next slide. So there's my org chart. I've had some changes as well. Not so much to the organization itself, but personnel. Many of you know Rodney Joyner. He's been there for a while. He was my TAM product lead, but a long-standing Keith Dunson, product lead who had been managing my ground, retired at the end of September. Didn't take him long. I saw him out on the floor with somebody else's shirt and everything else on already this week. So I moved Rodney over to the ground programs, one of the larger portfolios. He has the experience. He actually came from the ground programs before. So Rodney moved into that role. Mr. Joe Orsi moved over from PMSE. Thank you, John, through the year. He's a senior service college graduate, has some aviation background, was a Marine aviator at one point in time, and has taken over those aviation programs. And in my TAM, as I mentioned, I moved Rodney. It is currently vacant. I have Mr. Mark Poplin is acting in that position at the moment. Other duties is assigned like the rest of us, right? Next slide. All right, so most of these haven't changed since the last conversation. Obviously, the Egypt 47 pilot program, that's going on Warfighter TRS. We're getting ready to award that very, very shortly and move that one out. Poland tests, obviously, is going on the IDIQ with ICE. That will be awarded next quarter. Those Poland Poland Apaches are starting to show up fairly quickly, et cetera. Austria 60 BAT program, again, supporting that for CLS, taking that over as soon as PO Aviation delivered it. My team was on the ground with PO Aviation and AMCOM as they've done those deliveries. And that award and that CLS will pick up very shortly. The one that we do have competitive, and I'll do the next slide, please, is the Saudi Arabia CH-47F program. As you can see, Chinook 47, full flight SIM. It's got a couple of years of CLS, a couple of years of spares that go with that CLS, operator maintenance training, training materials, support equipment to go along with it. We expect the RFP to be out in the first quarter of 27, an estimated contract award in the first quarter of 28. It is expected to be competitive, as you can see right there. But those of you that's been around Saudi Arabia knows it might change tomorrow. It might have changed today while I was standing here on stage. We'll see. But they have been consistent saying they want to compete it, not going somewhere specific. Next slide. All right, jumping to my ground team. So Columbia Night Vision Simulator, again, directed source to Night Readiness LLC. That'll be awarded in the third quarter of '26. Georgia Gunfighter Gym Training System, it's a directed source to conflict kinetics. Again, an award in the third quarter of '26. Armenia Miles refurbishment, directed to Cubic, third quarter of '26. Romania Tank CLS, Warfighter TRS, third quarter of '26. And then Romania Multi-Purpose Range, directed source to Tyson, fourth quarter of '26. Expect to have that award. Again, try and show you most of these, even though they're directed, so that you have subbing or opportunities, partnering opportunities. Next slide. All right, last set of slides is the TAM team. As you can see, we put together a VBS IDIQ this year because we deliver a lot of VBS to our partners around the world. Ties in with JCATS and several other things we do with Joint Staff J7. And so that Kosovo VBS will be awarded in the third quarter as well. Sim Center for Kosovo and Serbia, you see, is going to chess. Most of the hardware, software, and licensing that goes along with that. Joint Fires Rehearsal Environmental Sim, sole source to Fidelity Technologies. Again, third quarter of '26. We'll have that out there. And then the last one, if you can jump to the next slide, please, John, is Egypt CTC3. Right now, most of you've probably seen the RFI out on the street, asking some questions. We're going through the market research to determine how we're moving forward with that one. The team is working that one very hard. That, if you're not familiar with it, that CTC was built approximately 10 years ago, delivered by PEO Stry, and now they're trying to do some upgrades, move some things forward. And also, we are now managing AFCTC 1 and 2 for Egypt as well, so there'll be some synergies in the future, hopefully, to be able to tie all those together and be able to operate. Next slide. I thought that was it. Kevin told me earlier I had to tell a joke. I don't know whether the ones earlier were a joke or not, but Marine walks into a bar. None of y'all believe that, right? Marine walks into a bar, and the bartender's got a millipede on the bar top. And he says, it's a talking millipede. So the Marine, being the Marine, he buys it pretty quick, takes it home, gets up bright and early the next morning for PT, right? Get out and do the things we're supposed to. Department of War's exercise program. He goes to the millipede and he says, hey, let's get up, start it. We're going on a run. Nothing happens. He goes, hey, are you awake? Listen to me. I said, we're going to go on a run. Nothing happens. He says, millipede, you're supposed to be able to talk. You're not listening to me? Typical Marine fashion, getting a little louder and screaming, right? Millipede looks up at him and says, damn it, I heard you the first time. Can't you see I'm putting on my shoes?
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dale. Yeah, I think we were going to take a break, take a 10-minute break, but I think after that, I think we just ought to press.
Yeah.
Get this fella off the stage. Hey,
Yes.
y'all okay to press?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, y'all okay to press? All right, good deal. So we got a few questions teed up. So y'all heard all about, our reform and, pardon me, my name is Lee James. I'm General Beeler's digital twin. Imagine that. So you heard about, our reform and our shift from portfolio to, or from program, to portfolio capability based.
You heard about speed. You heard a lot about, you know, the different program challenges and some of the actions coming up, commercial technology, data, multi-domain, international partners, and some of the things that span across all of our programs. And so now's the opportunity to ask a few questions. We got a few teed up, so I'll go ahead and jump right in, if that's okay. And the first one's for Mr. Willoughby, TSO. What are CPE STRIDE programs doing or plan to do for implementing War Department right to repair on their TADs?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't believe we're currently doing anything at the moment, but my interpretation of the requirement is that we need to address that early in the program acquisition to ensure that we have the right to repair. So that's something that my office will need to work on the PMs with. Like we always do on, you know, all of our acquisition efforts to try to ensure the sustainment strategy that the PM comes up with is implementable when the product transitions over to TSO. Appreciate the question.
Okay. What was that? I was multitasking.
No.
Good.
Did you
I'm
ask me
done.
something? All right. Next question, Ms. Bledsoe. Is there an estimated or projected dollar amount of RDT&E funding for STE Inc. 2? Part 2, can you provide thoughts on when you may have clarity?
I don't know the estimate off the top of my head for STE Inc. 2. I think the prototyping piece of it that we're still looking at is whether or not the tech maturity is really there or not. And so right now we don't really have any clarity on that. We should know more. We have an engineering touch point in December and a soldier touch point in January. And we should have a much better idea at that point where we're going with STLTS, especially with the direct fire.
Thanks, Liz. Okay. Each PM, so I'll let you all weigh in on this one. Consistent with competition throughout production, how will each PM for each product provide opportunity for new entrants to compete for follow-on production?
I'll start off pretty much the same way that we have beforehand. So as we get ready for production, we'll have an industry day. We'll put out an RFI to see to gauge one, what's out there, and two, interest. As you saw on one of my slides, we're putting an RFI out within a month or two to be able to gauge the interest for that follow-on contract, and then as we get that in, then have the competition.
All right, I did that, and I talked about a lot of our contracts are multiple award, and the delivery order is going to be competed. And so we provide that constant influx of competition already inherently involved with the contracts as well. Any new contracts we would look at doing would also be competed as much as possible, or provide multiple opportunities for competition, either through delivery orders or making them smaller contracts. You'll notice that one of the contracts I talked about, which is under Stephen's product office, was actually a delivery order for the TDP, and then the production was actually a separately competed delivery order. So just increasing that ability to compete and more opportunities.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I will add on to just making sure that, you know, our follow-on production contracts are competitive. I think it's through the, you know, how do we make sure that, you know, we're creating modular and open architecture, you know, to ensure that the capability is agnostic, right? So anyone, depending on what industry is bringing, it's able to integrate and be interoperable into a modular open system. And so we have to make sure that we remain focused on ensuring that we have that open architecture so that we enable the opportunities that we can do competitive follow-ons.
I'm just going to add on to that and say that with the previous question about right to repair, also that modular architecture improves our ability to repair or remove and replace with something if we don't have the ability to repair. So
We don't produce anything in TSO. I'll pass.
You got anything? You got anything, Dale?
That's the most honest statement I've ever heard from Mike, right there. No, I think, sir, I think they hit on it very well. The modular, everything else is going to help us. I mentioned the CPI and the PPP certainly helping us to be competitive or be able to push some of those competitive things in the future to the international partners.
All right. We got a few more questions here. So, John, this one's directed specifically to you from you-know-who.
Okay. There are many you-know-who's out here.
The STI may not be dead, but we hear RVCT is on life support. I don't know about that. Do you have an update if there will be an RVCT recompete, when, how much budgeted, and how many to be built?
Okay, so not a life support. We're actually continue to field, and it will be fielded through the BOI that has been approved. So, you know, it's, again, it's much like STI. It is continuing to be fielded. We'll be in accreditation here shortly, and it will be, we will continue to move with new variants. They understand that there's two variants to RVCT, ground and air. So the ground is the one that we're going through accreditation on. Air, we will go through accreditation when the COE and the accreditation community says it's time to go through accreditation on that. So they, you know, at that time, then we'll make an assessment if there is a decision to go beyond that BOI that we currently have for it. That's when we'll make a decision. You know, as soon as we know that, that's when we'll make a decision on a recompete and on what the future is for that program. Understand also that we're going to have to get together with our partners in capabilities development and requirements development to determine how we fold in the embedded trainer, which is coming on board.
Thanks, John. All right, we have a question for our ACC teammates. Will data and other AI innovations be woven into current contracts already in play in the SIM community? We won't make you come up on the stage, but use your outside voice.
So, sir, can you repeat that again? Because I want to make sure I answer that correctly.
Will data and other AI innovations be woven into current contracts already in play in the SIM community?
Okay, so Vernon Myers for ACC Orlando Deputy. Interesting question. I don't know what the perspective they're coming from, but the current contracts, I assume that we probably won't be trying to integrate any AI into them. However, big ACC is doing a lot of different things related to AI, helping us get our tech evals straight, help us get our source selection language straight, helping us look at some advanced technology to help us with putting requirement packages together. So yes, but going forward, I don't think we're going back. Did that answer the question?
And I would say that we are, you know, and contractually, we'll have to check, but from our standpoint, we are weaving in AI innovations into our existing, I mean, I think NGC is a good example, the TSIS an example, and
PCTU.
some of Colonel Coleman's stuff. Yeah, so we are in fact, so from a contractual standpoint, maybe we're talking standardized language or whatnot, or some constructs there that will be standard across the board, but we're absolutely weaving those into our requirements. All right, PMs, can you please share the next steps for PCTE? So that's thing one. Update to Cybercom and the future involvement for the Army, and when do you plan to recompete the contract?
So, so we got several kick efforts that's going on. So I'm assuming you're meaning the major platform, the PCTE platform contract. I don't know the timeline on that, so I have to take an RFI on that one. But in terms of, just some of the efforts, right, the question about integrating AI into previous contracts, right? Like that's what we're doing with PCTE, right? The platform is what it is, and we're doing these innovation challenges over time to ensure that we're integrated and infusing AI into that PCTE capability. So we're doing that right now, and like I mentioned earlier in my comments, we just finished, so we've released 2 requests for solutions. One, we just did a down select from 8 to 3 vendors, and so we expect to award to one of those vendors in second quarter of 26, and then we're currently reviewing the second request for solution, and so we expect to do an award for that one in third quarter of 26. Hope that answers the question.
And I'll add to that real quick, if you don't mind, Colonel Coleman. So from an international perspective, we do have one Five Eyes partner that we are working with Colonel Coleman's team and doing an instance of PCTE. And we have a second Five Eyes partner that is asking some questions and potentially moving in that direction. So we will be tied right into Colonel Coleman's team, and as they compete the future pieces, that's where I would expect that PCTE for those international partners to go.
Okay. And then I think I missed a piece of that, right? I think there was also a comment in terms of what's U.S. Cybercom's relationship to PCTE. So the Army, the capability still belongs to the Army as an Army capability. Army is the acquisition executive over the program. U.S. Cybercom is the requiring owner. So that's the relationship, and that's the dynamic. There is a plan on the horizon, maybe 2 to 3 years out, where as the U.S. Cybercom stands up their own PEO type of acquisition structure, their cyber capabilities across all the services, not just the Army, even with the Air Force, and then some of their cyber capabilities will transition over into U.S. Cybercom under their PEO JICWA to include PCTE, but that's 2 to 3 years out. So right now the dynamic is the Army is the acquisition executive. We MDA for PCTE. U.S. Cybercom is the requirements owner.
Thanks for that, Colonel Coleman. All right, all PMs. Many of the programs or efforts are in the next 12 months. What major initiatives are underway to keep an industrial base active or growing?
One more time.
Many of the programs or efforts are in the next 12 months. What major initiatives are underway to keep an industrial base active or growing?
So while the rest of my peers are thinking about it, I would tell you from an international perspective, I joked earlier, we were at business the entire time. ACC supported us and had their FMS team there the entire time, and I would tell you from an international perspective, we're seeing nothing but growth. It's been that way for the last few years, and I'm seeing the same thing on the horizon. The partners are showing up more and more all the time, especially with the modernization programs going forward. That's why I'm stomping my foot and talking about those CPI, PPP things to be prepared for those partners as you go forward.
I guess I'll speak with, one of the focus areas we have is our OPT4 capability. And so one effort that's on the horizon for as we're looking to integrate the visual modifications onto the opposing force mechanized vehicle replication, OMVR. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that program, but as we continue, and we're integrating that onto the Bradley platform. So those are some opportunities that's also coming forth as we look to replicate that vehicle capability at the CTCs. So we'll be looking to industry to integrate visual modifications onto the Bradley platform.
I guess I'll take a swing at it. For the most part, RPM is software-based. We do have some, some manufacturing, but talking to the software piece, if you look at how we're approaching and continue to approach the efforts that we have, NGC, et cetera, we're looking at having multiple companies involved. We already have the 5 companies that are focused on that initial tranche of NGC. However, we have 35 companies that are in the basket that we can pull in at any time and continue to work with them. And the intent is that will continue to turn over. We'll have awards in the future, or OTA opportunities in the future to refresh that pool, to bring in new people, new companies, to keep those companies going, and to again be able to capitalize on that new innovation that's out there. Same thing for as we look at things like the Joint Fires Trainer and the weapons systems developer. The opportunities to have a number of systems there in a catalog and be able to pull off that. So it's not just one company like we had in the past, where it's one company will have that and then have that for a long time. It's to be able to have a number of options for units out there to purchase. So again, keeping that keeping that industrial base alive and broadening it.
From my perspective, other than continuous competition opportunities, we're talking about ways to include more companies in evaluating emerging technologies, more of the R&D, S&T arm that would eventually feed into the programs of record down the road. Don't have really any ideas right now. It may be something that I talked to industry during one of our quarterly breakfasts on that, to get ideas about how that might be able to happen.
I think we're seeing demand signals grow for the contested environment, right? We're seeing demand signals for the EW spectrum, and how are we going to engage with this new PAE structure to improve both the training in that area and to help them test those capabilities in a congested, contested, or collective environment, things that they don't sim right now. Those are opportunities for this community to show the value back to the PAE, to that group that's not really familiar with our Orlando community and all the skill sets that we have here. So I think that's a big area we all need to lean into, and we need to show the value back up to the PAE of what we can provide for those capabilities.
Hey, thanks for that, Brian, and that's a great segue to the next question we have here. So, based on increased responsibility for prioritization and management of funding at the PAE level, are you staffed to meet increased requirements? No. Do you anticipate increased contract staff support? Second part of that question. So I'm not quite sure, thinking about what the first half of that question is, but I think Brian just hit on it. So this is evolving. I mean, we're all of 3-4 weeks into this thing. I know there's a lot of planning that's been ongoing for the past several months, but this entire reform effort, I see it personally as a big agile effort, right? And those of y'all familiar with agile, we're in our first planning increment right now, right? And we know we break that work up into chunks of effort. We're in our first increment. So we're gonna put our heads down and do a few sprints, and then pop up and see where we stand, and are we still going in the right direction or not? And we're gonna calibrate and recalibrate. So that's a general thing so we'll learn more as time goes on as to what those priorities are and how they're gonna impact us at the PAE level. In terms of increased staff support, I wouldn't necessarily say increased. I would say we're going to shift our staff support as the Army shifts its force structure and our manning constraints and whatnot. We're going to shift as well, so that's going to impact our staff support. So I wouldn't necessarily say increased staff support. I would say right-sized staff support. I would say right-skilled staff support, and then I would say right-structured staff support. So that's how I would frame those. And I think we've all got a dose this year of if the past is any indicator of the future, it's going to be pretty fluid. It's going to be pretty volatile here in the foreseeable future. So we want to best position our staff contracts, all of our contracts for that matter, for flexibility. So we don't have to go back to the well and do continuous mods. And I'm sure our ACC teammates appreciate that if we can build some of that flexibility into our contracts, so we don't have to go back to the well every time something shifts or changes, right? So that's my take on it. I'll yield to the PMs here if y'all have anything to add from your standpoint. All right, that's a good question. All right. Any other questions? We got the microphone set up. If you.
Yeah, this is for Ms. Bledsoe. So FMT has been noodling around now for a little over 5 years. And part of the challenge was always trying to align the various platform PMs and their local suppliers and the mix of embedded, do it in the motor pool, Common Core, and we've had OTAs, and then we've had a few other RFSs trying to get this sort of cohesive funding, Common Core. It would seem to me the new organization is going to make that actually more difficult because you're back to PAEs who have got a whole slew of requirements on their platform side. How are you going to approach trying to get back to that 5 years of work to pull it all together to make FMT actually do what you want it to do?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't know that that challenge is necessarily going to go away. It's just going to get different. VTS, I think, will remain customer funded, so the platform PMs will still have to contribute to that. And although part of that contract is the Common Core technology, that hopefully makes all of their training devices a little bit cheaper, and maybe interoperability if that's even a desire down the road. I think the pulling together the customer funding, the portfolio management, not necessarily going to help with that, considering the platform PMs have to still contribute to that. So that's something that we'll look at as the changing organization and we get used to the more portfolio management kind of way of thinking about ways that that might be optimized. Thank you, that's a good question.
All right. Any other questions?
I can do this. I can work smarter versus harder. So here's a question for you, for the general audience here, for the general team. There's a lot of joint simulation environments that's going on as well from the other services. So my question is there any assessment or review as to how the other services are looking at the joint environment? So as an example, you got JSE that's occurring on the Air Force and Navy side of the house. And it's all about architectures, right? It's all about sharing information, ensuring common architectures. I was just curious if there's been any assessments as to maybe how the Army can potentially leverage some of those capabilities.
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's something we're actually working very closely with the J7 on. About quarterly, we have a J7 working group up in Suffolk, and we are actually part of that. The Army had been away from it for a little while, not this past October, the October before that. We stepped back in, and as NGC started accelerating, we started looking, hey, how can we become that ground component of the joint environment? And so with those meetings that they have, it allows us to actually get together with the Air Force, with the Navy, with the Space Force, et cetera, and determine, hey, this is what we're doing, what are you doing, and can we take what you're doing and bring your model into ours. So instead of having to build a new model, build an Air Force model, build a space model, et cetera, can we use yours and then have that overlaid as part of Next Gen Constructive if we are doing an Army only, or then we can tuck in as the ground model in theirs. So those cyclic meetings at the joint level are how we're actually engaging with that. Had one planned, of course, when? Last October. They're looking at, I think the next one is going to be in January. So we continue to talk about that.
Any other thoughts? Okay. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Hey, thank you all for coming out. Like the boss said up front, these are important and these are fruitful. We're going to continue to improve upon our communicating here. I know we get a lot of feedback. I've gotten a lot of feedback. I'm sure we all have this week on the PALTs and the frequency and the structure of the information and what we're communicating and how often we do them. And I know we tried a few different things in 25. Got some good feedback, so we're going to continue to adjust and get better in facilitating these interactions. But I'll also leave you with this: don't wait until the PALT or TSIS or ITSEC to engage. I mean, this is we say continuous, right? So you don't need to wait to get in a room like this to engage. I think you all know how to get a hold of us. We ain't too hard to find. So let's continue to continuously engage and not wait for these type of events and then give the feedback that we're not getting what we want. So there's nothing that says we can't engage offline, after these sessions, hallway conversations, et cetera. So I'll leave you with that. Hey, thanks for coming out. Thank you to the panel. Let's give the panel a round of applause. All right, y'all have a good conference closing. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.